Okay, let's do it. So first let's review, okay? Write the first 5 terms of the arithmetic sequence. So super easy, we can just mental math it at this point. We don't need to write out all the work. I don't think so. At least I hope not. Okay, let's put 1 in. What's 3 times 1 plus 1? 4. 3 times 2 plus 1. 3 times 3 plus 1. Now, here's where I stopped actually calculating, because what's the pattern? Plus 3. So I just add 3 and make my life easy. And you can too, of course. Okay, let's do this geometric sequence. So I'm going to put 1 in. So what's 5 times 2 to the 1 minus 1? 5. Because 2 to the 0 power is 1. 1 times 5 is 5. Okay, what is 5 times 2 to the 2 minus 1? Now, I'm already kind of tired of thinking about the computation, the middle work, because here's the pattern. The terms are multiplying by what? 2. Plus, I knew that right away. Remember, that's your common ratio. So I knew I'm just multiplying by 2 down the line. Keep multiplying by 2. What's your third term? 20 times 2. 40 times 2. 80. So there's lots of ways you can calculate the 5 terms. You can put the numbers in and mental math them. You can find the pattern and just go down the line super fast. I don't care how you do it, as long as you can get me the 5 terms. Okay, so we're going to do the sum part today. Now remember, lots of vocab words to represent sum. It might just say find the sum. It might say the word series. You might see that sigma notation that looks like the E, which I suck at drawing. You might see that too today, which just indicates we're going to add the terms, okay? So we do have some formulas for you. Now, there are times, of course, you can just hit math 0 in your calculator when it says use your graphing calculator. If it says to show work and use the formula, this is the 4th formula on your yellow sheet. So you do have to know how to set this up. So A1, of course, is our first term. R is still that common ratio. And then N is the number of terms we're finding the sum of. So if it says from 1 to 10, your N is 10. We're adding up the first 10 terms. That will give you the overall total. So that's one of the formulas we're going to use today. Now, use your graphing utility to find the first 10 terms. Here's the thing. I could put 1 in for N, 2 in for N, 3 in for N, 4, all the way up to 10, but that's going to be really obnoxious. We've done this before, and I'm going to use it again today. Let's use our graphing calculators. I'm going to go to y equals. I'm going to type in this expression just as it appears. But of course, I'm going to change the variable from n to x, because who cares what variable we use. Now, I'm going to pull up the table, and that will give me all of the terms. So second graph. Now, when you're writing these down, though, be careful. What is your first term? 20. You're starting with x is 1. So just be conscientious of that. I'm just going to steal this over here a sec. We'll put it up here so you can see it more. You don't have your calculator. So, of course, we are starting when x is 1. So we're writing these 10 down. And I don't care if you round these decimals at the bottom to like 4.63 is fine. So I'm going to give you a minute to jot those down. So could have I done the same thing to do the first 5 terms on those previous 2 problems? I could have. But really, I can mental math those quicker, I think. Anytime it's over 5, I would probably just go to the table in your calculator. So just showing you multiple ways you can get your terms today. And again, I don't know how you're going to do it as long as you can get the terms. That's what we're after. Mental math, finding the pattern, using your calculator, what else? I know it's a pain to write all 10 of those down.
No, I love it.
Grant loves it, though, everybody. He loves numbers, he loves math. Fair. Now, if you're ahead of me, do not start the next ones. Do not hit math 0 and just type that in. It's not that easy, unfortunately. All right, got all 10 down. I think everybody's done writing, or obviously you can look at your own calculator, right? Because we typed them in ourselves, right? Good job, Darian. Good job. Okay, so find the sum. Now, notice it doesn't say use your graphing utility. Not that I can't for some of the calculations, but here's the thing. If it just says find the sum, show work, use the formula sheet, you have to be able to set up this very lovely formula. So that's what I'm going to do here. So first term, 1 minus r to the n over 1 minus r. That's what we're going to use. Okay, easy question for you to kick it off. What's the first term? 10. That's your first term. Okay, 1 minus r. What's r? 7 over 6. Now, here's the spicy part. We are going to raise this, which this is a kind of a pain to type in your calculator, to how many terms you're finding the sum of. So you have to look at your lower limit and your upper limit. From 0 to 15, how many terms is that? 16, because you're including 0. So be careful of that. If it was 1 to 15, that would just be 15. And then our formula, 1 minus r. Now I'm going to be honest, this is a little bit of a pain to type in, so I'm going to type it in with you. So personally, let me get out of this. I think it's hard to type this in one fell swoop and not mess up using parentheses somewhere. So I'm going to kind of do inside parentheses first. I'm going to do the top. I'm going to, of course, use the alpha y equals to get my horizontal fraction bar. So I'm going to type in just the numerator right now. So 1 minus, and then I'm going to do 7, 6. I'm going to pull up my horizontal fraction bar. You can do yours quicker, I know. And I'm going to raise that to the 16th. Okay, then I have 2, so that's the top. I'm going to divide it by 1 minus 7, 6. Okay, you know what I was typing on this thing? Divided by, now put parentheses around the denominator so it does the entire thing 1 minus 7, 6. Because I kid you not, every year I have some poor kid set this up beautifully and then something bad happens in our calculator. So it's important you know how to type these in. Okay, and then to get my final answer, I have to deal with the 10 out front, so I'm just going to hit what? Times 10, or, well, maybe you can mentally even do that. Come on. So I'm going to put 646.81. Okay, now let's have some real talk, kids. Real talk. Let's say I, of course, tell you I need work. I need you to use the formula. Am I going to know if you actually type in what I just painfully typed in, or you just hit math 0 and type in the original? Am I going to know? I sure am not. So you have to be proficient and decide how you want to do your calculations. Make sure you can, of course, set up the formula, whether you want to type that in or math 0. I'm not going to know, but I need you to be able to get the 646.81. So let's try the next one. Okay, so I'm going to set up the formula, because you have to be able to very least set up the formula. So to get our sum, what's your first term? 3 times 1 minus r. R is that 3 halves. Now careful here again, how many terms are there from 0 to 20? 21. So we would raise this to the 20 first, and then our formula on the denominator 1 minus r. Now, I don't care, you type it in. You do what you got to do to get an answer. Let me give you a second. You get kind of a big number. Because like I said, every year I have somebody that can set that up, and then we don't get the right final answer. So I want to make sure we can punch these in the calculator okay. All right, you should have 29,921.31. How'd we do?
I ain't done yet.
Oh boy.
Hey, really fun.
Now, I don't care, I'm curious, did you do math 0 or type in the purple? Okay, and I don't care how you do it. Like I said, as long as you can get me the 29,000. Any questions on how to type it in, I'm happy to do it. You just know I painfully type on that thing. Okay, let's see. We're going to use our calculator in the next thing too. So this is super easy. I'm just not great at drawing the symbol, obviously. So summation notation. That is that sigma, the E, the Greek letter. So we're going to write out the formula. Now it doesn't tell us, but we should be able to identify what type of sequence is this, arithmetic or geometric? It is geometric because you're multiplying by what? 2. Okay, so I'm going to write out my formula. First term, so I'm using over there on the board that green formula. The first term times our ratio You can pick whatever variable. I just went with n, okay? Next question. Can you multiply the 7 and 2 together? No. Order of operations. Okay, we're starting at 1. Here's the problem. Here's the question. What term is this one? I don't know. So we're gonna work smarter, not not hard. We're gonna go to our calculator. We're gonna type this in y equals. We're gonna look in the table for 896. Instead of guessing and checking, I guess you could guess and check, but that just seems obnoxious. So I'm gonna type that in 7 times 2 to the x minus, I'm using x instead of n. Okay, pull up your table. Second graph. And we can see 896 clearly on the table. What term is it? 8. Okay. I'm going to put 8 on top. So that's the tricky part on this, is figuring out what term it is. So you might just want to make yourself a note, like how we figured out this was our 8th term. I'm just going to put a little note here. We used our graphing calculator table. Just so you know how we came up with the 8, you're going to have to be able to know how to do that. So we're going to practice that a couple more times, okay? So here we go. So again, geometric. Let's write the first term clearly, 15. Here's the hard part on this one. What's the ratio?
Yeah, 1/5.
1/5. I like the 1/5. Let's throw a negative on it. You were right. And remember, if you're like, I'm not great at fractions, you could always divide.
Oh, what am I doing?
Okay, I'm using n for the variable. So of course we're in the same situation as the last one. What the heck term is this? So we're going to look on our table. Now, pro tip here, my friends. You type this one in. Use that horizontal fraction bar again, because it will give you the fraction version on the table versus the decimal form of it. So type that in y equals, and look for that negative 3 over 625. Figure out what term it is for me. I don't know, figure it out. Which term is it? 6. That's the 6th term. All right, any questions on that guy? All right, final one, you're up. I gave you guys an easy one.
Thank you.
I think the hardest part's drawing this thing. Okay, first question, what's our formula?
5 times 3.
N minus 1, whatever variable you use. First term 5, timesing by 3. I like it. Started with 1. What term did you figure out 3,645? 7. Got it. Any questions on how to find that term on the calculator? Easy. Okay, I have one last formula to show you. We're going to talk about if it's to infinity today. So here's the thing. This is the 5th formula on your yellow sheet. You cannot math zero this guy because you do not have an infinity symbol in your calculator. So you're going to have to be able to use the formula, but trust me, this is an easy one. So you know the dot, dot, dot means that it goes on forever. You know that. So what meaning can we attach to the sum of infinitely many numbers? At first it seems weird to even think about doing that. Like, how are you going to get a total for infinite terms? Well, think about this. If you take a cake and you cut it in half, another half, another half, I can keep cutting this in half, and eventually it does get close to a value. We say it converges. A little vocab word for you. Now, if that's not possible, that you can't get a number out of it, there's no sum, it's not possible, sometimes you'll see it called a divergent sequence. So just a little vocab that you're going to see today. So the formula that you're going to need. So A, catch the infinity, of course, on top. Now, again, you can't math zero this because you don't have the infinity on your calculator, but this is a pretty easy calculation. The first term over 1 minus r. Now, the other quick thing we have to talk about before we do a handful of these, how do you know when there's not a sum? It diverges. You have to look at this. if your absolute value of the ratio is 1 or more, it can't do it. You just can't get a sum. You can't get all of those numbers to total up to something. It's impossible. You can write no sum, not possible, whatever you want to put. So first things first, I always look at the R. So figure out for me, yeah, flip the page. What's R? 1/2. So I'm just going to mentally, I'm checking this. Is the absolute value of that greater than or equal to 1? Is this greater than or equal to 1? No. So we're good. We can do the sum. I'm going to do it. Okay. So I'm going to use the formula. So it's the first term. What is your first term? 1/2 is what? R. What's the first term? 1. If you put 0 in here, what's a half to the 0? 1. Or remember your formula. It's always the number in front of R. There's not one implicitly written in front here, so it's really a 1. All right, we can calculate this. We don't need a calculator. 1 minus a half. What's 1 divided by half? 2. Got it. Piece of cake. Okay? Okay, check your R. Figure out R for me first. What number is R? Okay, so the first thing I'm going to check is the absolute value of that greater than or equal to 1. It is. 5/3 is 1 2/3. It is over 1. We can't do it. So I'm just going to say no sum, not possible, diverges. I don't know, pick a phrase. Okay. I like this. I like that. Okay. Always find R first. Now, same thing. Okay, it's not with the sigma, but still the same idea. The dots goes on for infinity. I want R first. R is 3/4 because you did 6 over 8. Hard to tell what fraction you're multiplying down the line with. So this one might be easier to go backwards, aka up the line, so I divided them. Is the absolute value of that greater than 1? Nope, so we're good to go. We're going to do the sum. So of course for my formula, it's the first term. I just stole it. Over 1 minus R. Now we're going to do a little mental math on the bottom. 4/4 minus 3/4, 1/4. 8 divided by 1/4, you would multiply by the reciprocal, 32. Too easy, my friend. Probably the tricky part's getting R on that one. Okay, let's look at this guy. So first we need R. What are you multiplying? Negative 1/3. A third times negative a third, negative a 9. Next question. Is the absolute value of that greater than or equal to 1? No, so we can do it. Okay, so first term for our sum is 3 over 1 minus R. And you could type that obviously in your calculator. We're just going to go old school and mental math it. So I'm going to combine the bottom. 1 is really 3/3 plus 1/3, 4/3. And of course I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. So 9/4. Got it. So any questions on those infinite ones? Okay, last two things I have is just really a couple little review style questions. So look at your sequence. First to figure out for me, is it arithmetic or geometric? Arithmetic. Why? We're subtracting. Adding and subtracting is arithmetic. So first things first, we're going to say arithmetic. I'm going to abbreviate. Wants don't type. Now, if it's arithmetic, we have a common difference, which we're going down by 3. And it wants the sum of the first 15 terms. Look on your yellow sheet. What is the formula? You got to be able to pick it out for arithmetic sum. It's the second one on the sheet. So you're looking for this one. So first you have to be able to identify the correct formula. Now of course we're going to do this. So we're doing the first 15 terms. The first term is 17. We have a problem, my friends. What's the 15th term? Is it given to us? No, I mean I could keep subtracting 3. That seems real gross. I'm not sure I really want to do that. What formula on your sheet can you use to find the 15th term? The very first one. I'm going to use this blue one. Mine's in blue on the board. I'm going to use that one to find it. So the first term, my sweatshirt keeps hitting the darn board here. The first term, of course, let's use our formula. That's an equals. First term 17, n minus 1 times our difference. And remember, we want the 15th term. So, let's distribute, and then we'll put a 15 in there. So I'm going to have 17 minus 3n plus 3. And I'm going to combine 17 and 3. So then all I'm going to do is I'm going to get my 15th term. Let's figure out what's negative 3 times 15 plus 20. Got it. So now I can take this and just put it in my formula and punch that guy in. Whew, this was a lot of work. What do you got for your final answer? What's 15 halves times that? Nobody's mental mathing that one? Got it. So look at this thing. We had to first figure out what type, and I used both top formulas on your formula sheet. So that's why I said it's easy when you do one sequence at a time, but when we start mixing and matching stuff, we got to be able to pick out the right formulas. Okay, look at this one. So figure out first what type it is. I hear one vote for geometric. Agree? Disagree? Agree. I'm with you. Geometric. So if it's geometric, it has a common ratio. So you figure that out for me next. 1/2. Agree. Okay, and same thing, we're doing the sum of the first 15 terms. So you have to know what formula to use. I don't have it written on the board. Which number formula is it on your sheet? It's the fourth one. It's the one we did today. So we're going to do the sum of our first 15 terms. The first term of the sequence, 1 minus r to the 15 over 1 minus r. Okay, pros and cons to this. This is uglier to type in for sure, but you don't need to find the actual 15th term. It's going to get the sum for you for all of that right there. So punch that in, see what you get. I just rounded it to the whole.
16.
So type it in, see if you can get it. So by the time you round it to the whole, you should get 16. So if you're not great at typing that in, could you math 0 it? Maybe. What would be this formula? What's your first term? If you type that in, you'll also get it. So however you can type it in. All right, any questions on that?